This is On the Flywheel, a podcast where each week we talk to entrepreneurs and professionals about the practical things they do to build and keep momentum in their personal and professional lives. Hello and welcome to the podcast, Allan Jaffe, the Vice President of Technology at Top Speed Data. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
Well, I've been wanting to chat with you for a while because I think you have such a interesting background in technology, and you've done a lot of different things, and you dabble in a lot of different things, and you know a lot of people. So I think this is going to be an interesting conversation. So thank you for being on today.
That's what happens when you get old. You know a lot of people.
Well, some people don't. Hopefully, if you've done it right, and I think you have. So I always like to start out just having guests talk a little bit about their background, kind of education, career, just giving us a general outline of how you got where you are today at Top Speed.
Sure. I went to school at UC Davis, got my bachelor's in economics, started working for Pacific Telephone before Judge Green divested the Bell system in 1984. And I went there because they had a great management training program, and I was interested in that. I actually started in the property management portion in support services and moved over into operations after that. So I spent the first 6 or 7 years of my career at Pacific Telephone, Pacific Bell, in operations, installation and maintenance, special services, data circuits, things like that. And then I got tired of banging my head against the wall and moved over into the sales side.
One thing I want to touch on real quick is I've heard a lot of people that I know that are maybe well experienced in life talk about working at a place because it had a good management program. But I never hear anyone say those things really anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right, because when I started, and this was 1983 when I graduated school and went to work for them, there was a ton of training for everybody, basic management training, and then all the technical training you needed for whatever job you were in. And I did the same thing when I moved over to sales. There was 10 weeks of school while you were learning to become an account executive. So I found that very valuable, and I stayed in the technology business. I worked for a couple other providers. I got my master's along the way in finance, not in IT. I mean, there were computer science majors when I was in college. There weren't IT
Yeah, it's
majors.
different. It's different.
And those of us that took some of the classes were relegated to the basement of the computer center on the weekends at midnight. So I had a few.
Well, when you had shared computing resources,
yes,
right?
there were no PCs. Well, there were a couple then.
Yeah.
I've been in the industry for 43 years. And I'm unemployable doing anything else, so I like it. It's fun. I like helping solve problems with technology.
Yeah, I know. I relate to that. That's
Yes,
a lot
you
of
do.
what I try and do, right? And like you mentioned before the meeting when we were talking about your job title, you're a chief
enabler.
Chief enabler,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit. So you end up at you go into sales, and then eventually you end up at Top Speed.
Well, I was in sales at Pacific Bell. We were acquired by SBC at the time, and that's really still the owner under the AT&T brand. And I moved up in management. I actually ran sales organizations at SBC before I left, and then did the same for a couple of other providers. And then, what year is this? 2025?
I think so.
22 years ago, I came to Top Speed Data. We all knew each other. The founders of Top Speed Data and the partners all worked together at Pacific Bell a long time ago. And in my last role at a different provider, they were my biggest agent. And this industry, industry that I'm in, or this part of the industry, is used to be called a sales agent, but they call us technology advisors now.
I like that better.
So we're like an independent insurance broker, except we do the same thing for technology. We don't charge our clients, but we're a free consulting resource for them. So
yeah, that's very It's great, and in my experience working with you guys, it's been a great experience because we do work together, and the amount of resources and providers that you have access to is crazy. Anytime I'm like, I have a client that has this need, I don't know if this thing exists. I'm just going to call Allan or shoot him a message and say, hey, do you know someone that does this?
Yeah, that is the fun part about being in this part of the business, because we have a big toolkit, and anytime somebody just asks us a question, if we don't have that resource available to us, usually we can point them to somebody that does. And I love that better than walking around with a toolkit that just has hammers. So I like having screwdrivers and drills and Allen wrenches and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Do you want to just talk about really briefly about kind of some of the different like overall things like services or that Top Speed brokers out?
Yeah, we do a lot of the basic stuff that historically that telecom IT people did. We provide internet service, cloud phone systems, cybersecurity services, software as a service. So, people need Microsoft 365 or Google suite of products or Adobe Acrobat. We have resources that can provide that for them and give them help desk resource as well. And we don't charge any different for the services than somebody does going directly to them. So that's one of the beauties of it. We're unbiased in our, in providing the options for clients. So clients like that, providers like that, because they don't pay us unless we place their service.
Yeah, it's kind of a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
No, it's a great business, and I had no idea it existed.
No, most people don't.
And until I started, until I ran into you and learned about it, and I was like, I can't believe it. And then come to learn that this kind of model exists in a lot of other industries and different things like that, where there's someone kind of middle person selling things,
right.
Represent a broker representing a variety of
the kings of
vendors.
it are the independent insurance brokers. I mean, they have a ton of business. They're very large. They've been around for a long time. Everybody else that's doing it, we're all kind of Johnny-come-latelys. This industry has really only been around in the technology space since '96, which would be when the Telecom Act happened, and they kind of further broke up how the industry was laid out. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, because back then, in terms of things there wasn't cloud software, right, at that point.
Right.
And so it was either traditional on-premise software or it was landlines and internet.
Yeah, there weren't as many options. I like to tell people when I started in the business, you could have any color phone as long as it was black.
Well, now what is it? Also white?
Well, we've kind of reverted to this is all we're doing, but unless you have your mobile phone could be a different color.
Well, that's fair. Yeah.
My wife's is pink.
Yeah. Cell phones are, you got to have your personality, right? So I want to jump into that's kind of just a quick overview of what you do and how you got to where you are, but I wanted to chat about a little bit, get into some of the personal things. And so in terms of like the things that you do on a daily basis that you feel like help make you successful. So is there anything, what I like to ask people about is just the routine. Are you kind of are you a routine person, or are you just wake up in the morning and every day is different?
Well, man, you call my wife, you're going to get the same answer, but a different perspective on it. So I get up.
That's what we'll start doing is bring a person in and their spouse. Those would be wild interviews.
I'm very routine oriented. I don't do well without one. I start forgetting stuff. So yeah, I get up early. I walk my wife's dog for a little exercise, do a little workout.
Always very specific that it's your wife's dog.
It is my wife's dog. And I'm up at 5 in the morning on the weekdays and go into the office pretty early. I try to get stuff done before the phone starts ringing, before I have to make calls, and I find that very helpful because I get a little quiet time and I can plan what I haven't planned the day before for that day. I try to get program work done before the afternoon. And
what would you define as program work?
So my job as chief enabler is to vet technology for our team and to make sure that my team has those resources when they're talking to their clients. And that goes for talking to different suppliers that are out there and learning about new technology. It also would be to help solve a business problem with one of my team for their clients. So that's the kind of work that I'm doing early. And
so that's like the thinking work, basically.
Right. Yeah. That's when I can think, is before lunch. Ready for, I think if I were retired, I would take a nap at about 2.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. And then I'm usually on the phone, meetings, try to get in front of clients as much as possible.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's generally my daily routine. And I try to front load my week just in case.
So you have space in the back half of the week?
Yeah.
Very nice. Is there anything specific as a part of your routine on a daily basis that you feel like, hey, I have to doing this thing every day helps set me up for success?
No, aside from having my clothes laid out.
And just walking your wife's dog.
And walking my wife's dog. Exactly.
That's fine. Yeah.
That creates success at home.
Fair. So, that's an important part of life.
Both of them are very appreciative of it. Both the ladies are very appreciative of my walking services.
That's fantastic. Yes. No, it's important. Home life is just as important, if not more important, than work life.
Yeah.
So
nobody can make me sleep on the couch at work.
Exactly.
Because we don't have a couch.
See, maybe you need a couch in your office, and then you could have a little nap time.
We
in
have
there.
those comfy chairs. I don't really need to do that.
Those chairs are very plush.
I could tell you stories about. I have seen a couple people nod off in them.
Well, I've seen some older folks sitting in them that really struggle to escape from them.
Are you talking about me?
No, not
okay,
you.
Good.
Not you. Older than you. Very retired Rotarians. So anyway, I want to jump in now into kind of getting into the business life of things. So what would you consider the best and worst part about what you do?
Well, the best part really is what our mission is solving business problems with technology and having a customer who's happy about it. Either we've saved them money, we've optimized their technology spend, or we've given them a better way to do business. And even if it's a break even for them, they're pleased with the outcome. The worst issues that we have to do with technology breaking, somebody not doing their job. And I also tell people if the providers did their jobs all the time, we wouldn't have jobs. And that happens. It could happen any point in the process. Somebody, as I think you know, is not getting back to a client during a sale or during implementation or with a repair problem. Those things are all bad. And nothing makes me angrier than somebody not replying, going dark to a client.
Yeah. No, it's that is one of the most frustrating things as the client is when you just don't hear back from someone you're trying to do business with.
Yeah.
And I think people are particularly sensitive to technology, especially people that aren't like in the space when it's, just a regular business owner and they're investing in a piece of technology and they're not they kind of just expect things to go smoothly and be handled and for it to not be complicated and for it to just work.
Right. They're experts in running their business. They don't, just like I'm not going to set up any video equipment.
Right.
I would hire that out.
Right.
They expect the provider to do their job.
So what do you think, you can answer this as Top Speed or just you personally, like what do you think makes you different about how you conduct business?
Well, I think I'm part of the culture of Top Speed, and we genuinely have folks at Top Speed Data that want to help their clients and do right by them. We've formed long-term relationships. We've been around for almost 22 years, and we've had clients for that duration. Because they're happy with what we do, we've created friendships with many of them. So you want to help your friends and your community, and that's I think part of the beauty. I don't think that there are other sales agents or technology advisors that aren't like us, but we're ensconced in Petaluma and the communities where all of our folks are. We like helping the nonprofit community. That's especially dear to us. So I'm not sure if that makes us different, but that's just kind of who we are.
Yeah, no, I mean, not everyone's friendly and involved in the community, right? And I think it does make a difference. What about you personally? Like, what do you attribute to being successful in the industry and for so long?
I haven't been found out yet.
What does that? Let's dig into that. I'm going to put on a psychiatrist hat for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I like what I do. I think I was raised with a very supportive family. I think they told us we could do anything that we wanted. I mean, except play basketball. I think that was pretty self-evident. Although both my kids played point guard in,
it works. I mean, that is
junior high and high school.
That is the shortest position.
It definitely is.
So.
And my kids are short. Yeah, I mean, I think liking what you do is a huge part of it. You can tell when somebody is miserable in their job, and it's unfortunate if they are, because it doesn't help customer relations at all.
That is true. When it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that does go a long way. It's just being passionate. I mean, you're not going to love every aspect of your job every single day, but generally, if you enjoy going to work every day and doing the job, then that does make a big difference.
One of my kids was a police officer, and I always think about whatever the worst day I ever have, and like I'm not looking forward to whatever task I have to do. I think about it still beats doing that as far as having a bad day. And I just couldn't imagine, going into a job where you're miserable for 8, 10, 12 hours. What a bummer. I'm not. I really like what I do.
Yeah, throwing away, I don't want to say throwing away, but like a third to half of your life, you're just miserable.
That is throwing away. That is throwing it away.
Yeah, that sucks. And I think that's a great point. So many people, like so much of life is just about perspective. There's a book called I think it's Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and it was a guy that survived the Holocaust.
Yes,
and he talks about his personal story of just how you mentally survive something like that, And I think it's easy to lose perspective when you're in a bad situation, and then you think about, well, how much worse could it actually be? Like I'm still breathing, I'm still here. Like ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, it's really just not that bad. I just gotta grind it out and get her done.
I'm pretty doggone lucky. I mean, I have a good job. I have a great family. I, have a house.
Yeah.
I have first world problems for sure.
Yeah. No, I have to tell that to myself sometimes. I'm like, I'm not where I want to be, or I'm not. This thing isn't the way I want it to be, and then I go and even here just in Sonoma County, look at what some of the things that other people struggle with. And I'm like, you know what? I really can't be complaining.
I have that same talk with myself, not frequently, but occasionally, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you see like in your industry or business in general? Like, what's something that people seem to just get wrong consistently or mess up regularly? That's just that you'd consider just fundamental to
in my industry or amongst my clients, or
sure, both. Let's do both.
The business community in general.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing people get wrong in general business, especially in the small medium business community, and that for us that's companies with 25 to 500 employees, is that they don't think that cybersecurity is a serious threat to them, or they feel helpless to do anything about it. They think I either have to spend tons of money that I don't really have, or they're not going to target me. I'm not Target, I'm not MGM, or you name any of the recent hacks that have happened. And that is a huge mistake. There can be financial repercussions, human repercussions, and that's not just to the business owner, it's to their employees, it's to their clients, it's to their donors. And I don't know about you, but I do not want people to remember my name or my company name because I didn't take care of things. And so that's what I see going on in a big way today. It's a little bit better than it was before the pandemic because people started working from home and companies realized, many of them, that they have to lock down data that's getting accessed from generally networks that aren't secured at home.
Yeah, that's a much more complicated problem for sure when you start getting off premise with people's devices and working from home. Yeah. I think that's I mean, I've seen businesses, I mean, they had 3 or 4 people that actually were in the office, maybe 20 employees, 25 employees total, get hit with ransomware.
Yep.
You know, it's indiscriminate because all you have to do is click on the wrong thing and then they're in, and they have call centers.
They do.
Crazy.
So a couple of things about that particular problem. It's the gift that keeps on giving, because not only is the company locked out of their data, and hopefully they get most or all of it back one way or the other, whether they pay or they've actually had backups. But all that customer, employee, donor data gets sold on the dark web. They're not, even though they're giving you access back to it, they're making money again by selling that.
That part's not talked about very often.
It's not. And so that's why you get the notice. I counted. Last year I got 5 letters from people that I do business with as a person, as a consumer, saying that my data was breached.
Wow.
Now, I'm probably about average in that. I would guess most people are getting that much. And that means that my data's been sold multiple times. And fortunately, we have services as a company that let me know when information of mine has been seen on the dark web. So, you know, that's one thing. The other thing that you talked about when you talk about ransomware, what's interesting to me is that I just read my first or second article about ransomware as a service in the mainstream press, not in the technical press.
Oh, interesting.
So in the Economist paper, there was an article last week about how ransomware as a service works, and that means that you and I can just go online and buy a kit. I don't have to know anything, but we can have our own ransomware out of a box and start hacking people.
In it would not for ransomware specifically, but they used to in the kind of the nerd community they'd call them like script kiddies or script kids.
Yeah.
Where people just download scripts and then use it to do malicious things online to people.
And this is a cottage industry. There are help desks for this.
Yeah, I've heard about that. You know, the ransomware people will spring up a help desk because if they want to get their money, they got to make sure that people get their data back and can undo whatever happened.
Yep. And there's help desk for the people that buy ransomware as a service.
Oh, of course there is. That's terrifying, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot of time. Do something good in the world.
Yeah. Well, it's easy money, though.
Yeah.
I'm
sure it's also a lot of,
things.
they're mostly foreign actors, and I'm not sure how much opportunity they have outside of that.
That's a fair perspective.
And actually, in other news from The Economist weeks ago was an article about what's happening, you know, when people get actually kidnapped and they're in Asia and they're on these farms, in these big complexes, they're forced to do that.
Wow. So
it's not all people that want to do that.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. So talk to Top Speed. So I want to keep moving here because we are getting surprisingly close to the end of time already. So what would you, I want to talk a little bit about work-life balance. So we've already touched on that personal life is just as important, if not more important than work life. So how have you historically, you've lived a lot of life.
Yes, I have.
And so how have you over the years figured out how to balance that out? I'm also curious as someone with young children, how you did it when you had kids and how that's kind of ebbed and flowed for you over the years.
So number one, I may not be the example to follow if you also talk to my wife again. But I've been very lucky in my job. One of us has usually had flexibility in our jobs where we've been able to be with the kids at their events and things. And since I was with Top Speed, and even before that, I had a pretty good amount of flexibility. So I could go to all those life events, the school plays, the musicals, the sporting events, and whatever else that they did, we could be there. No matter, really a lot of times, no matter how far they were away, there was some driving involved. and I could bring it with me, and so could my wife, and that was really good fortune, I think, in the careers that we chose. I had a boss at North Point Communications years ago. This was right after I left SBC, and she doesn't call it work-life balance. She calls it work-life integration, because she believed that balance, there's not really, the scales are never even. Right? There are times when you're slammed at work and you just can't get away. And then there are times when stuff goes on that, I had my appendix out when, this has got to be 25 years ago. And like an idiot, after surgery, I told my wife I needed to leave a voicemail for the person who I was going to have take over for me during the 2 weeks I was gone. I was high. I was medicated, and that message became a joke around the office.
That's fantastic.
So work-life, I don't know if I'm the right person to ask about work-life balance.
That's fair. Well, I mean, it's actually something that I've talked about with other guests when we talk about work-life balance, is that it is a misnomer, right? Because you never, I think there's not a lot of people that can say it's ever perfectly 50-50. It's more, I don't know, a seesaw.
Well, and people who have whose schedule is rigid, they don't really have a choice, right? You've got to go. You've got to show up at work at this hour, and both my wife and I were in jobs like that too. It was harder with kids.
Yeah, that is tough. I think especially not to. I also think that tends to affect people in lower socioeconomic jobs.
Definitely
tend to have much more rigid hours, and then dealing with those things are much more challenging.
Yeah, well, skilled and unskilled labor, they both have times they have to show up. They've got to do the job. You can't phone that in, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. That is one of the coming back to everything about perspective.
Can't put parts on an aircraft from your house.
That is true. What are some of the things that you do to recharge your batteries outside of work? Stay fresh, stay sharp. Besides walking your wife's dog.
Walking my wife's dog, yeah. Well, we like to be outside a lot. My wife's a cyclist, hiker. We like to kayak. We like to garden. I still play hardball. I play baseball with guys who are too young for me to be playing with right now.
That's awesome.
That to me, that's a time when, away from my family, where I get to hang out for 4 or 5 hours and play a game that I've grew up loving. I may not play very well, but I play with some guys who are very good. Yeah. And so that recharges me. And like I said, just getting out and hiking with my wife, or seeing other family members, I love doing that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think it is important to take that time away from, take the personal time and do things you enjoy, and helps kind of just check out a little bit from stresses of personal and, professional life. And
listening to other people, even in a social situation at a party, it helps give you ideas for maybe what you're doing. 'Cause I always love to talk to people about what they're doing in their lives, and it's a great source of inspiration and information.
Yeah, I do think it is It's always so interesting to hear what other people are doing. I think that's one of the things I enjoy most about networking. It's very time consuming, but it is so interesting to hear about. And that's one of the things I enjoy about doing this podcast is just getting people's different perspectives on life and learning about the different what their industries and their jobs, and there's so much you can learn and take away from talking to people.
There are no shortcuts to that, for sure.
It's just talking.
Yeah. And listening.
Yes, listening. What's the, 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them proportionally, right?
I used to have to get told that a lot when I was a child.
It's something I try and keep in mind, because it's not so much that I don't enjoy listening to other people, but sometimes don't leave enough space for a moment to breathe, trying to fill in the quiet spaces and just keep talking because I don't feel like I'm getting anything from anyone.
Well, I think that happens when you're engaged too.
That's fair. Yeah. And I'm also, I always joke one of my favorite hobbies is offering unsolicited advice. So I have to be careful about that too.
Did you know my mother?
No, I just grew up in a very opinionated German family. And so opinions were were bountiful about the right and wrong things to do.
As a Jew, we have a saying: if you have two Jews, you have three opinions. So I grew up with that as well.
Yes.
I'm not sure if that's appropriate to say here, but it's inside baseball. So
you're Jewish.
I am Jewish.
I can't say that, but you can say that. No, I just I grew up in a family that just always there's a particular way that things should be done, and they really struggled to be able to see other perspectives that there may be equally valid paths, even if you don't agree with them.
I got you. No, listen. I know there are quiet families. I didn't grow up in one.
Exactly. So what's part of the idea of on the flywheel is building and maintaining momentum in your personal and professional life. And so I'm curious, maybe if you could think of an event in your life, let's say professional, where you maybe like hit a roadblock that slowed you down, and what that was like and how you were able to overcome it and what you learned from it. Oh
goodness! I mean, I've failed a bazillion times, but I've certainly had bumps in the road. I worked for a company that went bankrupt, and I started as the vice president of sales and basically turned into the vice president of collections before we shut the doors. And those were not fun calls.
Yeah.
So, you look for another. I think as a family guy, the one thing that I always kept in mind was if I have to fry burgers or fries or whatever at a fast food restaurant to make sure that I can pay my mortgage and feed my family, I will do that.
Yeah.
I think that's really what keeps me driven for that. And I love helping my team and their clients. To me, those are, that's how you overcome any obstacle. Is what is your mission?
Yeah.
At home, it's to make sure that everybody's taken care of. At work, it's kind of the same. Make sure everybody's taken care of.
So what you're really saying is you're like the dad at Top Speed Data.
I don't know if I'm the dad. I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
I think that is one of the that attitude of like I'm just gonna dig in and do whatever I have to do to make sure things are taken care of. I think that's lost a little bit on some people. I think we lose perspective that just even in the United States in general, even the people at the bottom of the ladder were comparatively very wealthy to the rest of the world, and so there's a sense of entitlement that I've seen, and like even me sometimes I have to check myself, but a sense of entitlement that like we deserve a certain standard of living and a certain job and a certain title and a certain amount of income, and especially I think I see it a lot too with parents that worked really hard to provide for their children, and their children grow up a certain way, and then they realize that how much work it is to maintain that lifestyle.
So I'm the grandchild of immigrants, and I find that you see that as generations go after immigration, that the family that gets here works really hard just to scratch and claw. Then you have maybe that generation, the first generation that goes to college, or also still has to work. My parents were middle class. They worked hard, but they kicked our butts and made sure that we did too. I'm a baby boomer, so maybe I don't know if that's necessarily different. There are a lot of privileged people my age.
Yeah, I mean, it happens in every generation as much as the previous generation likes to crap on the next generation.
You are right. You are right. But yeah, I mean, I think being in the richest country in the world, and one of the richest in our state, the fourth richest economy in the world, does help people forget that, how they got there.
Yeah.
I think it's important not to.
Yeah. I think, my dad always taught me about leading from the front, and being willing to do any job that you are going to ask anyone else to do, and being
given
willing
your
to
background. Listen, I feel like I did a lot. I think every kid growing up should work in food service or in retail to learn how to do the dirty jobs and deal with, humanity on a personal level and understand how to be a good customer. On the other hand,
or work on a farm.
I was going to say you're a step even beyond me. Working on a farm, it's a mistress that will never let go of you.
Yes.
It's every day, all times of the day.
You could. I think what people don't understand that have never worked on a farm is that you literally could work 24 hours a day and the work will never be done. There's just no such. I mean, and that's kind of true of any job.
No, it's not. Well, when my son was a cop, it was true. I don't know of any other jobs aside from emergency services that have that 24-hour a day like a farmer or a rancher.
Outside of emergency services or a hospital, right? But it's just it is an interesting world, and people don't. It's like that. Coming back to the perspective of things, is there's always. Most people that have never worked on a farm don't realize how hard the work is, and they take it for granted that their food just, and I could pontificate all day about agriculture, but the people don't take it for granted that their food just shows up in the grocery store shelf.
I spent very little time working in agriculture, but I can tell you from that very brief experience, a lot of respect for what your family does.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's I'm always very passionate about it because that's my background and strong. It's an important part of Sonoma County, and
it is.
It's been great to see Sonoma County kind of rally around agriculture the last couple of years. So
absolutely,
that's been good. Well, we are about at the end of time, so I want to hit the. It's been lovely chatting with you, but I want to hit a couple bonus questions that I try and ask everyone.
Okay.
And what are some of the I like to ask everyone about their favorite books. Okay. Either your favorite book or a couple of the books that you've gifted the most to people. If you've got any off the top of your head that you can think about.
Sure. If we're talking business type books, I'm not a big fiction reader, so I like history. I like reading business books, things like that.
I'm with you.
So books that I've given for a gift that I think are pretty valuable. I just gave this one recently, and it's an old book. It's Nuts. It's by Herb Kelleher, the founder and former CEO of Southwest Airlines.
Okay.
And it's a great read. It's funny, but he talks a lot about customer service and even about firing customers. And those are it's good information to have. Great book. Leadership in Turbulent Times by Doris Kearns Goodwin. Really is it's a political book. It's about presidential leadership, but very valuable. And then the boss that I mentioned, who talked about work-life integration, Shelley Archambault, wrote a book called Unapologetically Ambitious, and that's particularly valuable, I think, because it's written for women and minorities, because she is both, and it really talks about trying to eliminate imposter syndrome for women, and making sure you have a place at the table as a woman or a minority. And I loved that book.
Those are some great recommendations. I've heard of the Southwest book, but then I haven't heard of the other ones. So I will have to check those out. I love that. Thank you. Yeah. And then the final question for you is, if you could put a billboard over the freeway that everyone could see, what would it say on it? What would you want people to be reminded about each day?
Be kind.
Great. Keep it simple.
I'm a simple guy.
Yeah, I think we forget, you honk at that person that cut you off and you have no idea what's going on for them in their car. Was it intentional? Was it not intentional? They rushing to an emergency. What's the deal?
There's a degree of anonymity when you put a windshield or a screen in front of somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that we need to remember that the people behind those on the other side, they're just like us.
Yeah. Whenever I cut someone off, I always have a good excuse, right? We forget that.
I only wish I could have a sign saying sorry or whatever.
I always thought it'd be great to put have a little LED sign in the back window and say, "Oops, that was my bad. I apologize." Right. Or what was that for?
I probably need that more and more.
Well, Allan, it's been great having you on. Thank you so much. Is there any where can people find you? Do you want to throw out any links or things for people to check out?
Oh, sure. our website is www.topspeeddata.com. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, same way. That's it.
That's great.
See me around town.
Yes, thank you so much for being on. You can find the podcast at ontheflywheel.com. I'm with Flywheel Consulting, which you can find at flywheelconsulting.co, or find me on LinkedIn. Allan, thank you so much. Appreciate it, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me.